WWE's preference for writers and members of its creative staff to not have prior involvement in professional wrestling has become a topic of debate amongst fans for years, with one side saying it strengthens WWE from a cinematic and episodic television point of view, whilst others say it waters down and weakens the wrestling. I think the latter part is pretty true, but we'll move on. Now, a new writing staff member by the name of Kenise Mobley has reignited that debate, and having admitted that she had very little prior knowledge of wrestling before joining the company. When she was speaking on a podcast, she says, quote, "Yes, I have just been hired by WWE. Given the things that Given the things you know about me and my entire life and what I'm into, yeah, that's surprising. Yes, it surprises me. They did not require me to know anything about wrestling, but I do have background in film production and comedy writing, and they're like, perfect, come on in." She also went on to say, so I'm on the Monday Night Raw team. No surprise there. So there's Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown, and people I know are on Bobby Lashley. Yeah, okay, she just goes on to say, some stuff about Bobby Lashley. That's fine. So basically, that's the gist of it, Trevor. We have a newly hired member of the WWE writing team, and I'm sure she's a wonderful TV writer. I'm not saying that she's not, but when we're talking about wrestling, she says that WWE does not require their writers to know prior knowledge of wrestling, meaning they don't know how to build wrestling storylines. They don't know how to kind of get into the head of a wrestling fan. They don't have that relationship. What the fuck? What do you make of this?
Excuse me. Oh man. That's just it. Unfortunately, it doesn't. I wish it would surprise me because it doesn't. But you would think that it would at least require them to watch some wrestling, to know something about it. You know what I mean? Like at least to have some, like you said, like to be on the same level with the fans, to be able to write this story so former wrestling fans all around can understand it in a wrestling mindset. You know what I mean? Like, oh, this makes sense because this could happen. But I mean, don't get me wrong. Like the fact that she's a comedy writer, the fact that she's written in film and stuff, that helps. It does, because it gives her a little free leeway to be creative with certain subjects. But she needs to know the product she's writing for before she just gets out there and just writes cold turkey.
See, my thing is, I don't. People think that it needs to be a one or the other. You have to only have wrestling people. You only have to have cinematic, comedy writers from Hollywood. I think here's the thing. At the end of the day, the bulk of your business, if you're WWE, comes from your TV deals. And what are you presenting on TV? You're presenting professional wrestling. So you should, at your core, your show should have a professional wrestling type of vibe, and they should be written, I think, by people who know that perspective. That's not saying that you shouldn't have, people who are outside of wrestling having some input. That can be good. That perspective is needed. Look at someone like what's his name? Vince Russo, who came in WWE. Look, Vince Russo as the head writer of any wrestling organization, terrible. But Vince Russo giving different perspective with Vince McMahon and wrestling people as filters worked. And I think in a very similar way, you can have that work with the WWE writers. But giving free reign to people who don't have any knowledge of wrestling, who probably don't take wrestling seriously, who probably think wrestling fans are all like 50-year-old nerds who just sit on their laptops and complain. Which, by the way, look, kind of true. Regardless of that, they don't really know. They don't have that perspective of what wrestling fans like. So once you don't have that perspective, you aren't writing for those people. You're just writing for Vince McMahon, which is what we've seen and what we've heard for a long time. And I think that's like part of the problem that has plagued WWE for a while. I don't want to dwell on it for too long, but
Right.
I think they need to kind of change that. They need to change that. Like have the perspective of people who are outside of wrestling. That's fine and that's good and it works, especially when you're doing cinematic matches over the past year. I think that's helped out a lot. But also you need to have that core. You need to have that core wrestling philosophy because once you lose that, you lose fans. And we've seen that with Raw especially. Like we've seen that happen and it's not a good thing for that brand.
No, it's not at all. Like you said, pretty much piggybacking off what you said. Like it's fine to have people in other other writing venues, like comedy writers, like people who write films, things like that, write for television shows. There's nothing wrong with that, but they do need that wrestling perspective, and I think that's exactly what's lacking in Raw. I mean, I'm not sure who's writing for SmackDown. I even think they'll be the same writers, but it's I mean it's translating better at SmackDown than it is at Raw.
Thanks for watching this video from Real Take Sports Talk. Remember to like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. Also, remember to check out our live show every single Thursday at 8 p.m. right here on the YouTube channel. And remember, keep it real.